Is this a metal light?
There are no more lights. He likes the dark. Giles.
Water. Not too much. Stop. This should be done in a hospital.
Okay, what the hell happened? I should be asking you that question. You make a quasi-arrest without any form of authorization. Poor old Giles. He could hammer you if he has a mind.
Poor old Giles, is it?
One has to assume your interrogation went way over the top.
My interrogation served its purpose, Dickie. An attempted suicide is as good as a confession in my book.
And his sister's in there with him.
How did she turn up?
She lives round the corner.
I don't quite understand who you all are.
You must be aware that your brother worked in the Foreign Office.
Yes.
And that some of his work was classified. We have to find out why this happened.
It happened because of whatever happened last night.
Yes, well, we're going to get your brother into a nice, comfortable room with medical attention on tap.
I think I have some rights as his next of kin to make that decision myself.
The ambulance will be here in a moment. I wonder, could I trouble you to put some of his things into a case and a bag? Just enough for a few days.
I'm going with him.
Well, if you like, I'll phone the office and ask. They almost always say no. It's the trouble with getting anything done at this time of the morning. None of the really senior people can be found.
I thought you were senior.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. There'll be nobody senior enough to countermand my orders.
Poor Giles. To be working for people like you. Was it you here with him last night?
Married in opera, but not in Seville. 6 letters. Any ideas?
I know nothing about opera. I hate opera. Besides, that's not the crossword. That's the classifieds you're pretending to read.
I'm just looking for another job.
Coming home?
Yeah.
How's the suicide?
He'll survive.
I don't care whether he lives or dies. So long as he doesn't drag Tessa into all this mess. Can you keep her out of it?
Rather depends on Tessa. Is she sleeping with him?
How do you define sleeping? Especially with Tessa. If the department finds out, they'll send someone round asking questions. And then George is sure to get to know about it. He's back from Rome tomorrow.
Poor George.
He's such a silly sweetie.
Funny, isn't it? How it's the cuckolded husbands rather than the guilty parties that seem to lose face these days. You smell good.
I've been to the Cabinet Office. The nicer you smell, the more favors you get.
Does that rule apply for husbands as well?
I'll give it a try.
I do love you.
Nice to see you again, Mr. Sampson.
Ted Riley. God. How are you? How's the... I don't believe it. How's the family?
Bright and shining. Now listen to you. I hear you've been back to Berlin. You getting your hands dirty again?
Oh, well, I'm just a messenger boy these days, Ted.
Makes two of us. This way. Shunted out into the sidings with our wheels getting rusty, eh? Tell us this. How is the old place?
Well, it's not so old anymore, Ted. I mean, there are bits of Berlin that even you wouldn't recognize.
I'd know the people. That would be enough.
Frau Hennig?
Liesel. I don't suppose you'd remember me now.
Oh, she asked after you.
You bloody kids. You were a shopping lot, the whole lot of you.
One half of a damn good football team.
Aye, but only when your dad was the referee. See the new governor here? Terrible man for protocol. Need written permission to take a leak these days. Huh?
Listen, Ted, I'm sorry to land you with an invalid.
That's all right. I'd have a wee bit extra to do for a change. And freewheeling all winter. Just the odd residential training course now and again, that's all.
What do you think of our Mr. Trent?
Foreign Office, isn't he? Well, if you ask me, I think he's a whining wee man who has lost his bottle. Do you know he spent all day yesterday crying?
Do you think he'll give me a written confession?
Well, if he doesn't, you let me have a go at him and he bloody soon will. After you. I'll tell you something now, son. He'd be far better doing what you want him to do than been handed over to 5. A visitor for you, Mr. Trent.
I do wish you'd stop trying to pretend this was some kind of luxury hotel. You've got a nerve. This is bloody kidnapping. I don't care what Dickie Cryer says.
Well, you're taking an overdose of sleeping tablets. Made him very upset.
You're a sardonic bastard.
Yes.
I warn you. I shall throw habeas corpus at you with a vengeance.
Oh, ordinary citizens don't get habeas corpus these days, Trent. I wouldn't give much for your chances.
Don't play policeman with me, Sampson. I'm an undersecretary at the Foreign Office.
You're a spy. A rather grubby little spy. If I was playing policeman, I'd be telling you that Tessa has made a full and frank confession.
Tessa?
Yes, Tessa. Kosinski, my sister-in-law, whom you're currently humping.
Don't be so bloody offensive.
You spent your life humping other men's women and never taking responsibility for a partner yourself. I find that rather offensive.
What has Tessa told you?
Nothing. As far as I'm concerned, she's not involved. You do well to remember that.
I demand access to a lawyer.
Fart in a thunderstorm, Trent. You gave up what citizens' rights you have when you signed the Official Secrets Act. I can do anything I bloody well want with you, and nobody will ask any questions.
I have a family.
You have one sister who's heavily implicated in this mess.
She's not involved.
But you are.
What precisely do you suppose you're going to get out of me?
The truth. Anything that seems less than the truth, and your sister will be pulled in. It wouldn't be difficult to build a case against her.
whatever I did, it amounted to very little.
What were your contact procedures?
A phone call when I had something to hand over.
And the drop?
A payphone on Liverpool Street Station.
And the chess club?
Sometimes. Usually when he wanted to specify information they needed.
His name was Kalashnikov.
He worked as a driver for the Soviet trade delegation.
Oh, don't make jokes like that, Trent. You had me falling off my chair with laughter. Like Cherubino.
Who?
The Marriage of Figaro. I discovered your sister has no interest whatsoever in opera, and yet you said she'd met Kalashnikov at the opera.
She liked him, not Mozart.
You're seriously telling me that you've been trading classified information with the Russians to keep your sister serviced by a KGB guerrilla?
Look, she was in love with him. She is in love with him. Look, it may sound odd to you, but that's the truth.
To me, it sounds rather silly and squalid. But I do have to warn you that to MI5, you will sound comically implausible.
Who said anything about MI5? How can I keep my sister out of this?
I don't know. Perhaps by pretending nothing has happened. You stay where you are at your Foreign Office desk and carry on leaking selected items to Kalashnikov. Selected by us, of course.
Would I go home?
Under surveillance.
And what if they find out?
Who, the Russians? They'll be very angry and unpredictable.
What happens if I refuse to cooperate? I end up at the Old Bailey.
You're too far up the ladder for a public trial. Muddy too much water, wouldn't it? The newspapers would crucify us.
So what happens?
I imagine you'll end up in the ambulance with the blue flashing lights that doesn't quite make it to the emergency ward in time. Well, lunchtime. Give it some thought over the tinned carrots.
Somebody knows where you are. Now, you smile at Mr. Ramsler, Mr. Sampson, and you'll maybe get to ride in his nice big motor car. Don't suppose he picked that up on a department salary, eh?
His family owns a bank, Toad. It's rather out of our league, I'm afraid.
Help yourself.
No, thanks.
Brahms 1 is out.
Out how, where?
Took Frankfurt a day and a half to get one of our own people through West German red tape to talk to him. He's going on about a leak. Seems to be terrified.
Well, you'd be terrified after 15 years of waiting for the knock on the door at midnight.
It's still classified.
He had to be very frightened, didn't he? To abandon his wife and children.
We need to break this Trent, Bernard.
Break?
A confession. We have to show our people that the leak has been plugged. Otherwise, Brahms' network is going to dissolve in front of our eyes. Is he cracking?
Brett, we're leaking out of the top of the bucket. What access could Trent possibly have had?
He's an undersecretary at the Foreign Office.
So?
That's high enough for me. And for the newspapers when we subpoena him.
But you and I know it's not high enough. It's too bloody neat, Brett. I mean, we discover a leak, and hey presto, there's Giles Trent, ready, plucked, and trussed, like a quail with his legs in the air.
And if it's not him?
Well, it could be any one of us, couldn't it?
I'd like your assurance that in the event you'd be prepared to go over and talk with Brahms 4. Persuade him to stay, at least until we can manage to maneuver another source into position. Seems you're the only one he's prepared to talk to. After all, you set the network up. You and Yuri Rostov. You're going to abandon them all?
5 years ago, I abandoned Yuri Rostov in a minefield to protect your Brahms network. You bust me from the field, remember? Why do you suppose I'd go back to do you a favor?
How many contacts did you have?
Kolesnikov.
He was the only one? Did he leave you a phone number to ring in case anything went wrong?
We never discussed the possibility of my being caught.
They gave you no goodbye codes?
No. When will they let me out of here?
Oh, well, that depends. When's your next meeting scheduled?
Tomorrow evening.
Tell him you're writing a report on the Berlin system. The whole Berlin network. Every damn thing we do over there.
Never even heard of the Berlin system.
Oh, you will. And it'll make Comrade Kolesnikov happy.
Na, du alter Gangster?
Du, hat mich jemand beschattet?
Nein, nur ich.
Also, Brahms 1 steigt aus. Jemand hat ausgepackt. Die anderen werden alle ins verrückt vor Angst.
Aber was glaubst du, wie sie sich erst fühlen, wenn sie sehen, dass du abhaust?
Ich hau ja nicht ab. Solange Brahms funktioniert, habe ich noch was Geschäftliches zu erledigen. Du, besorg mir mal einen Flur.
Na, du fängst an, ganz schön teuer zu werden.
Let's talk about 1980. December 1980.
I was in Berlin.
Yes? Remember something called the Karlshorst Intercept?
We were interrogated about it for nearly a week. Of course I remember. There was a Warsaw Pact flap on. Poland or something. Apparently we nobbled their radio traffic for a couple of nights.
Until our novel was leaked back to Moscow.
Foreign Office knew nothing about the intercept. We weren't even allowed into operations.
Didn't stop you visiting each evening, though, did it?
Not that evening. Perhaps you've forgotten the sight and sound of Frank Harrington in full flap. I could hear him from the other side of the compound. I went nowhere near the place that night.
I was told that you were seen there that night.
Look, I played this scene out a dozen times with that CIA missionary Frank pulled in on us. Joe... Brody. Ask him. It'll still be on file. I went nowhere near the place that night.
All right, off the record.
Off the record, on the record. It makes no difference. I didn't go up to operations. Whoever told you I did has either forgotten or is lying.
Billy? See, look. Darling.
Hello.
George, darling. How's the Pope? Did he sell you absolution?
10 years sins paid, courtesy of American Express.
He's a useless client for Rome, darling. He never does sin. George, let me buy you a drink.
Cheers, Tess.
Cheers.
How long have you been screwing Giles Trent?
Pas devant les enfants.
You're the biggest child of all, Tess. How long's it been going on?
A few weeks.
Where'd you meet him for the first time?
Darling, I don't know. I can't remember. It was years ago. An 8-week party at Oxford.
All part of the same group? Fiona as well. Let's see.
But I only knew the Oxford gang because she was there.
When did you actually sleep with him for the first time?
Bernie?
Listen, he's under surveillance. You could end up in the witness box at the Old Bailey answering some very embarrassing questions, so next time you see him, bye-bye. Okay?
Any minute now. What on earth did you say to Tessa? She looked like you'd hit her with a snake. I only said talk to her, darling.
Cheers, sweet. Giles Trent. Doesn't have any goodbye codes.
So?
Well, the Russians always like to give their agents an emergency exit. Things go wrong, they like to get them home. That's the way they work.
You mean you think he's not a Russian agent?
I mean, Moscow has no intention of getting him out.
Kiss the girls and made them cry. When the girls came out to play, Georgie Porgy ran away. Guess what I got?
What have you got?
I got that.
Where is he? Did you get some at the restaurant? Who's that sweet?
Yeah, I got that.
Did you?
Bernard. A German voice. He won't say who he is.
What the hell are you doing here?
Take it easy, Bernd. Did you bring the money?
You have no authority to be out of Berlin.
Money, Bernd. Save your lectures for young Werner. If Brahms' 4 goes kaput, we will be closed down. The Brahms network is the best in Berlin.
Maybe the network's falling apart because you're a load of bloody geriatrics.
Oh, you have no feelings anymore.
Maybe you've been running the network, using it, for black market deals on the other side, and the boppers are getting tired of you all.
You think we don't know about the KGB spy here in London going to blow us any minute? £400, I asked Bernd.
Why?
To buy someone off. You want to save the Brahms network? I know a way of doing it.
With £400?
Shopping, Bernard. Stilton and smoked salmon. And don't tell me it's late at night. I know that all London senior staff have £500 at home for emergencies. I am an emergency.
No, no, boots, Dickie. No, I'm sorry. That was meant as a serious remark. I think the Russians staged the whole thing.
Why should they stage it?
At Balliol together, weren't you, you and this Trent?
Yes.
Not a good advertisement for the old establishments, is it? Next time he's in debrief, you better go along and hold his hand. Be able to talk about old chums together. What about this Kles, how do you pronounce it?
Klestikov,
Klestikov, sir.
Klestikov.
He has a pre-arranged meeting with Trent tonight, sir. You see, we're trying to hook them on the idea that Trent is preparing to leak the Berlin system.
Is Samson running this show on his own?
German desk is running it. It's Bernard's file.
Glass of sherry. Simpson. Close the door. Help yourself. Thank you. Oh. There's another Soviet sleeper in my department.
I didn't exactly say that, sir.
Clear to me as parrot spit. You believe the KGB fed us Trent in order to protect another more important source.
It's a possibility.
Sit down. What's their next move?
They're making a heavy play for Brahms' network. Whoever it is in London does not know the identity of Brahms 4. I think whoever it is may soon have to step out of the shadows and be seen. If we happen to be looking in the right direction at the right time.
Any idea in which direction we should be looking? Anything you want to warn me about before you produce the next parrot out of your hat? Nasty things, parrots. Smell like rotting lilac flowers.
Tonight, Bernie? You're waiting for the Big Bang? I thought you might be working on her over there's files. She had a sneeze and went home early. Dickie. Well, it usually means that something's cropped up he can't cope with.
Julian.
All that is over.
Giles, I told you it's finished!
Bitch.
You're from the KGB. You're my goodbye contact.
Don't worry, Ted, old son. It's not your fault.
KGB?
No.
Made to look like KGB?
Something like that.
What do we do about Klastikov?
Pull him in. Never know your luck. Someone might loosen his tongue. Show us who the other mole might be.
Which I suppose could be me. Why not?
Well, no slur on your abilities, Dickie, but...
We know it can't be you.
Why not?
You know the identity of Brahms for the mole doesn't. Isn't that the whole point of what's going on?
Giles Trent wasn't the mole.
No.
Brahms 4 sent one final communication on the goodbye code. He indicated he had the means to identify the second mole in London.
Oh.
The mole sent some handwritten reports, old Bank of England stuff. Something destined to end up on Brahms's desk.
Handwritten pages, right?
Deliberate. The mole's shown himself, Bernie. Now he's waiting for you to go in and get those sheets of paper and show in turn who Brahms 4 is to the KGB. You're going to have to go over the wire, whether you like it or not. For your friend Brahms, Bernie. Not for Brett.
On the strength of handwritten pages, Frank?
Have you heard from Rolf Mauser?
No.
Brahms 1 is out.
So how do you know?
Through Volkman.
Through Zena, you mean?
I knew you tracked her down, Bernard. She was hopping mad.
She was hopping mad?
Oh, I'm not complaining. It was your job. I just like to think that any business I have with Zena is kept out of the official files.
Is that why you came over to London to tell me that?
Of course it bloody well isn't. I never breached security with anyone, Daddy. You should damn well know that.
Pillow talk has a habit of saying things you don't even realize you're saying.
Don't let's overreact.
I'm not overreacting, Frank. I'm going to be the one that's on the wrong side of Charlie, right? Picking other people's chestnuts out of the fire. And I just want to make damn sure that Mrs. Zena Volkman does not know my travel plans, okay?
You're saying you don't trust me? For God's sake, Bernard. This is Frank Harrington you're talking to. I promised your father I'd look after you. I promised him that when you joined the department. I promised again at the very end. If you're going over the wire, for the first time in 6 years, you're going over my way or not at all.
I notice you don't say much about getting me back again.
You're going over the wall, aren't you? Or make them send someone else. I haven't even been to bed yet.
Giles Trent's been shot dead.
By whom?
No idea.
Well, what happens now?
It's the old chess game, isn't it? Pieces on the board. I know.
Piecework. They never stop, and they are hardly ever checked, not at the crossing. High wages for the driver, and hard currency for the East.
Mm-hmm. How long does it take to set up?
One phone call. It's always been my private goodbye road, if anything went badly wrong.
Never been used before.
You worried your mole in London might know about it, or you don't trust me anymore. Max Binder swam the river. Winkel made a run for it, and Rolf Mauser disappeared. Bram's network is folding up.
Rolf Mauser has been shooting people in London. With the help of my money, and no doubt your advice.
An airplane ticket. That's all I gave him.
Yes, well, I gave him £400 he needed to buy a gun. And if anybody in London...
We are all frightened your mole in London going to dump them.
Or frightened your little black market racket is about to be uncovered by the Stasis of Opus or the KGB.
Not my racket, Bernie. By the time I found out about it, it was too late. All I could do was try to keep them out of danger.
Is that why you pimped Zane at the Frank Harrington? To keep him off your backs? Why didn't you tell me you knew where she was?
And have you think she was knocking off with Frank Harrington? Zena was doing an undercover job for Frank. The place in Lübers is a safe house.
Is that what she told you?
She's come back to me, Bernie. And it was you who got us back together. You frightened her.
Did you know she was in Lübers?
Okay. Who said that sometimes? It's terrible to find an enemy in the friend. But it's much worse not to find the friend in the friend. Who's coming over?
It's a dustbin job.
They sent you back here for the garbage, do they? Then why is Frank Harrington moving you east? Is it Bram's fault?
There's no need for you to know.
Oh, yes, there is. That's my private road, buddy. You only use the good ones once. I'd like to be sure it's for someone you really need to get out.
Bram's fault.
And who's Bram's fault?
Nobody knows.
You know.
So will you tomorrow.
That's your man. He'll pull out of the run to change a wheel. There's an overhead warehouse crane where he will stop. The coffin gets dropped in there. The sand loader's been paid. He shoots the sand in over the coffin. He also makes sure the sand gets watered down. There's just one check about a mile before the wall. If the sand's wet, the infrared won't pick up body heat through the lead coffin.
How big's the coffin?
Will be a tight fit for two. And only one oxygen mask.
Right, you're back on the payroll for 24 hours.
Whose authorization?
Mine.
Your payroll again?
For the moment.
London?
I want you back in East Berlin before the checkpoints close tomorrow night. The worst comes to the worst. Things are going to move very quickly over there, and I'm going to be on the wrong side of the wall. I need your help, buddy.
Is that the last one?
That is the last one.
You sure?
Positive. Go to the left.
Right.
German engineers. They're not armed, but they have a radio to talk to men up top. That working party will be your key to the door.
What, at Stadtmitte?
Yes. There's a maintenance shop up to the upper level. The last man through will have been a little careless with the lock.
How'd you manage that?
Charm. And pretty young girls. Point of no return, Bernard. Careful up on top.
Cheers, Frank.
Good luck, laddie.